ما شاء الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته، ثم الصلاة والسلام وتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني الهاشمي الذي سمي في السماوات بأحمد وفي الأراضين بأبي القاسم محمد، وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الهداة المهديين، سيما أولهم أمير المؤمنين وآخرهم بقية الله في الأراضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء، ورحمة الله على محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم أجمعين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم ملعونين. أما بعد، قال المعصوم عليه السلام: لولا ثلاثة ما وضع ابن آدم رأسه لشيء: الفقر والمرض والموت. For the happiness of Hazrat Zahra Marziyah, for the enlightenment of the graves of your marhumin, of the graves of the shuhada, ulama and siddiqeen, for the safety of the followers of Ahlul Bayt around the world, and for the safety and the hastening of the reappearance of Hazrat Baqiyatullah al-A'zam Arwahun al-Fida, please recite your loudest salawat. All praise due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one who is Rahman and one who is Rahim. We have been discussing a narration from Abi Abdullah, and today we have reached the last lecture in our series here. And so it's a good time for me to ask for your forgiveness if in any way that I have offended anyone, if I've hurt you with my words, with my actions, and if I have done so, then I hope that you can find it within your hearts to forgive me and keep me in your du'as, insha'Allah. So we'd said that the Imam alayhi salam had said that there are three things. If they were not present, if God had not created these three things, then the son of Adam would never lower his head for anyone out of arrogance. And those three things were illness, poverty, and death. Illness and poverty we've already looked at. And today is the time of death. And as we said yesterday, something that we run away from. قُلْ إِنَّ الْمَوْتَ الَّذِي تَفِرُّونَ مِنْهُ فَإِنَّهُ مُلَاقِيكُمْ. For 2 years we ran from it. We were like, oh, I'm not going to go visit this person. The fear was death, as we explained yesterday. The fear wasn't that I may fall ill, but it was that all that I have created will slip away from my hands. All of those things that I am attached to will all slide away from me. And death is the single most painful experience of the human being's life. Imam al-Radha salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi, says that there are three bottlenecks in the life of the human being where he is filled with fear. The first time is at the point of his birth, leaving the womb to enter into the world. It says fear grips that person. It's a whole new world. They've never seen something like this before. And so fear grips that child. The second is at the time of death. When they see Malakul Maut, one foot has already entered into the barzakh. Those curtains have started to come down. The moment they see Malakul Maut and the fear that grips a person when they see the angel of death and they realize that their time is up in this mortal realm. It says that is a time where they're filled with fear. The third moment in the life of the human being where fear overcomes them is when they will be taken out from the grave on the day of judgment. This whole experience is filled with so much fear that even Zainul Abidin in Dua Abu Hamza Thumali, he says, فَمَالِي لَا أَبْكِي. For what reason should I not cry, my Lord? أبكي لخروج نفسي أبكي لظلمة قبري أبكي لضيق لهدي أبكي لسؤال منكر ونكير إياي أبكي لخروج من قبري أريانا ذليلا حاملا ثقلي على الظهر أنظر مرة عن يميني وأخرى عن شمالي إذ الخلائق شأن غير شأني لكل امرئ منهم يومئذ شأن يغنيه. Says that for what reason should I not cry? I cry for the moment when my soul will be taken from my body. I cry for the narrowness of my grave. I cry for the darkness of my grave. I cry for the questions of Munkar and Nakir. I cry for the moments that I will be taken out from my grave, naked, humiliated, carrying upon my back the burden of my sins. I will look to my left and look to my right, and nobody will be concerned with me. On that day, everyone will run away from me. The only thing that will help me on that day is that pure heart. This is the single most fearful part of the journey of the human being. That even the ma'sumin would weep out of fear for that point. And yes, there are two sides of how the believer will be welcomed and how the sinner will be welcomed. But death is an extremely painful experience for the sinner. The Holy Prophet is walking through the marketplace and he sees a sheep being slaughtered. He turns to his companions, he said, imagine if this sheep's skin was ripped from its body while it was still alive. How painful would that be? They said, very painful, Ya Rasulullah. He said, death is 1,000 times more painful. The separation of the soul from the body, removing the body from the soul, the cutting off of those ties. This is extremely painful. On another occasion he's walking with with his companions, and they pass a sweet seller that is boiling syrup. He turns to his companions, he says, imagine if you were to be thrown into this vat of boiling syrup, how painful would it be? They said, extremely painful, Ya Rasulullah. We cannot comprehend it. He says, death is 1,000 times more painful than this. See, the separating of the soul from the body. Every part of that person will scream in pain as that soul is ripped and separated from the body. Yes, for the believer, It is this, the one that has the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt, that when Malikul Maut comes, he will come to take their soul. And Ali Muhammad will say, go easy, he is one of ours. And he will present to them a flower. And the believer will smell that flower, and as he smells, his soul will leave. But if there are sins, then it takes time to separate. And that's what those sakaratul maut are. The sakaratul maut, the pangs of death, are described like if you were to take a silk cloth and throw it on top of a thorn bush. And as you pull it, see how it catches and tears. It says that's how the soul will be separated from the one that is the sinner. The moment one sees Malikul Maut, the experience begins. Ibrahim al-Khalil says to Malikul Maut, says to him that, how is it that you will come to take the souls of the sinners? Malikul Maut says, Ibrahim, you may be the Khalil of Allah, but you won't be able to bear it. He says, no, show me. He says, Ibrahim, you may be Nabi Allah, you may be a Rasul, you may be Ulil Azm, but you won't be able to bear it. Ibrahim alayhi salam insists. Malikul Maut says, turn around. Ibrahim alayhi salam turns around. When Malikul Maut says, now you can look, what Ibrahim al-Khalil al-Nabi al-Rasul ulil Azam sees makes him fall unconscious on the ground out of fear. That appearance of Malikul Maut says, this is how I will come to take the soul of the sinner. Salman, when he began to feel weakness in his body, illness, he was in Mada'in. And Asbaq ibn Nubata says, I came to visit him. And I said, Salman, I've come to see you while you are ill. Salman says to Asbaq ibn Nubata, he says, Asbaq, carry me to the graveyard of Mada'in. Asbaq says, Salman, why do you want to go? He says, because my master, Amirul Mu'mineen, told me that, Salman, when your time is up, the people of the grave shall speak to you. So take me there, so I can know whether or not my time in this dunya has ended. Asbaq ibn Nubata says, we laid Salman on a bed, a plinth, and we called a few people and we lifted the plinth and we took it to the graveyard of Mada'in. Salman sat up. He called out, Salamu alayka ya ahl al-qubur. There was no reply. Again Salman called, Salam be upon you, O people of the grave. There was no reply. Salman calls out, says, O people of the grave, my salam be upon you. I am Salman, the servant of Amirul Mu'mineen. At that moment, they hear a voice, says, Wa alaykum salam. Salman turns to the grave from where the voice came. Says, O dweller of the grave, tell me about death. Says Salman, don't ask me about death. Don't ask me about separating the soul from the body. He says, no, I insist. Says Salman, I have been dead for 99 years. but I can still feel the pain in my throat where the last part of my soul was separated from my body. He says, tell me what happened. Says Salman, the reason I am talking to you is because I am a believer. The others are facing adhab. I was given permission to speak to you. Salman says, so then tell me, what was your experience of death? He says, Salman, I had fallen ill. And my family members were all around me. Some were holding my hand, others were crying, they were sitting there talking with me. Says, a short while later, I saw Malikul Maut standing there. He pointed towards me, and my limbs stopped moving. I wanted to hold my children. I wanted to hold them. I couldn't. Then he pointed towards my tongue, and I lost the ability to speak. I wanted to tell them so much, advise them about so much, but I just couldn't. I couldn't bear it. I couldn't speak. They were all trying to speak to me. I was trying to hold them, trying to speak with them, but nothing was coming out. Says, then he pointed to my ears, and now I could no longer hear them. And they were all falling on my body. They were all crying and kissing me. I wanted to hold them. I wanted to tell them it will be okay. But I couldn't. Then he pointed towards my eyes, and everything went dark. Says, I wanted, and I could see that my loved ones were all falling around wailing. Says, Malikul Maut came to take my soul, but when he removed my soul from my body and he saw that my family members were falling on my body, wailing and crying, he turned to each of them. He says, why is it that you wail and cry in this way? Why is it that you question the order of God? By God, I will come and take each and every one of your souls. I have not acted of my own accord. It is what my Lord has ordered me to do. Says Salman, he took my soul. And now I couldn't see anything. But I saw two angels on my side. I said to them, who are you? One said, I am Raqib. The other said, I am Atid. Says, we were the ones that were with you all your life, writing down your whole life's deeds. Says, they gave me my scroll of deeds to read. I read all the good that I had done. And then they gave me my scroll of bad deeds, and I read every single thing in there. That the mayyit, when they read that, they say, مَا لِهَذَا الْكِتَابِ لَا يُغَادِرُ صَغِيرَةً وَلَا كَبِيرًا. What is this book? Not neither the small nor the large has been omitted from here. Every single movement of my hand, every single movement of my eye, every single word that I have ever uttered is written down within this book. Then they took my soul to the heavens. And as I was raised to the heavens, I was taken towards the arsh. And there my questioning happened from Allah. When the questioning was finished, I came back towards the earth. The sinner, when their soul is taken, and as they're raised, the doors of heaven are closed. And the angels smack the soul back down towards the earth. You are not worthy of even entering through the heavens. Says Salman, when my soul returned back to the earth, I saw my body lying upon the table for washing, for ghusl. And I saw my loved ones, my children standing there giving me ghusl. And I was trying to call out to them. I was begging them, don't do this, I'm still here. But they couldn't hear me. They couldn't see me. They washed my body. See, here the adhab for the sinner begins. Because although in the apparent they're washing the body with cool water, but in the malakut of the alam, that water is now boiling. And so as the sinner is being given ghusl, his body is being burnt with the boiling water from the malakut. Salman, I begged them. They began to shroud me. I called out to them. They didn't listen. They shrouded me, and for the sinner, that shroud, it becomes a shroud of fire. For the believer, it's just a shroud. But for the one that has sin, that shroud becomes a shroud of fire. Salman, they carried me towards the graveyard, and I ran behind them, begging them not to bury me, not to take me. I begged them, I screamed, I tried to get their attention, but none was looking towards me. No one could hear me. The narrations say, when the soul is chasing after its body, it's complaining, it's calling out about certain things. It's shouting to the people that are carrying that janazah. Says, I complain to you about things. I complain to you about shaitan that misguided me in this world. I complain to you about this dunya that deceived me with all its glory and all its glitz and glamour. I complain to you about the corrupt friends that I had, those friends that brought me towards sin, but at death they left me all alone. I complain to you about my children. I gave them everything that I could in this world. I made sure that I did not observe the halal and the haram of Allah, so that my children could be at ease. And now these very same children have left me. I complain to you about my wealth that I spent day and night chasing. Now that wealth is burning me today. That wealth is being distributed amongst all those that remain. I complain to you about the house that I owned. I worked so much to beautify it. I worked so much to make it a place where I would live forever. But today others have taken that house from me. Salman, as they carried me towards the graveyard, I begged with them, I pleaded with them, but none could hear me. They dug my grave in front of me. They lowered my body inside the grave. I asked them not to. And then I watched one by one as they began to cover my body with earth, burying me. I was begging them not to bury me. And I watched as my corpse slowly disappeared under the ground. When the final amount of earth fell on my grave, all of a sudden my soul was thrown back into my body. And I opened my eyes and I found myself inside my grave. And I could hear them from above ground. Let's go, there's nothing that we can do for him. There is nothing that we can do for him now. Let us go home and pray Quran for him, do some things for him. And they all began to walk away, and I was screaming from inside the grave, don't leave me, don't leave me here. I heard their footsteps receding away. So at that moment I began crying, wailing, Ya Allah, don't leave me here. Ya Allah, give me a chance. Let me go back. Let me change my life. I promise I won't do any of the sins that I did again. My Lord, don't leave me in here. Says from behind me, I heard someone call, Kalla, innaha kalimatun huwa qailuha. Says they lie. The words that they say are lies. For now there is no return. And there is a barzakh between you ila yawmi yub'athun, until the day that you will be raised. Says I turned in my grave to see an angel standing. I said to the angel, who are you? Says, I am the angel Rahman. Says, what is it that you're here to do? Rahman is the precursor for Munkar and Nakir. Says, my role is to make you write your whole life's deeds with your own hands. Says, but I can't. I don't have any paper. Rahman tears the coffin. Salman, he tore my coffin, he handed it to me and said that this shall be your paper, write. Says Rahman, I don't have a pen. How can I write? Says your finger shall be your pen, write. Says I have no ink. Says your saliva shall be your ink. Write your life's deeds. Says I turned to him, I said, Rahman, I lived 70, 80 years on the earth. How am I supposed to remember my whole life's deeds? I can't write it. Rahman says that you have forgotten, but Allah never forgets. I will dictate to you, you will write your life's deeds. And so he began dictating to me all the good deeds that I had done on this small piece of coffin. See, the realm of the barzakh is not bound by what we see here. Even if it's a small sheet of coffin, it holds the whole of the a'mal of that person. He begins to write. Says Rahman dictated every single good deed that I had done from the moment that I was born until the moment that Malikul Maut took my soul. And I was happy. And I was smiling. And I wrote. But then he said to me, now write your evil deeds. And so he began dictating to me. And as I wrote with my hands, my whole life's evil deeds, every movement of my eye, every word that I'd ever uttered, every place that my feet had walked me towards for sin. Says I began crying. I said, Rahman, I can't do it. Rahman, don't make me write all of these evil deeds. Rahman, I can't do it. Rahman at that moment brings out a spear of fire, brandishing it towards me. He says, will you write or will I punish you? Says as he brandishes that spear towards me, fear overcame me. I said, Rahman, I'll write. Says my finger began wearing away, my saliva began drying up, but my life's deeds continued to be dictated to me. And after I had finished all of my evil deeds, now Rahman tells me, wait, sign this. Says Rahman, how do I sign it? Says take your nail and push it into the bottom of this paper. Says, I pushed it. Says, this is your signature. Then Rahman took a rope. He tied this single small parchment, this piece of kafan, with this rope, and he hung it around my neck. Salman, the moment he hung it around my neck, I felt like the weight of the world had been placed on my neck. It felt like my neck was going to break. I said to him, Rahman, why are you doing this to me? I can feel the weight of this. It's breaking my neck. He says, did you not read the Quran in the world, that every person shall be raised and their scroll of deeds shall be hung around their necks? Says, this is how you will be raised. We told you about this. We warned you about this. He says, now wait. For Munkar and Nakir will come and question you. And so as the Rahman leaves, Munkar and Nakir enter. If the person is a mu'min, Rahman will tell them, go easy. He is one of our believers. But if it is a sinner, he will say, do as you please, for this is a sinner. Rahman leaves. Says a short while later, Salman, I saw Munkar and Nakir enter the grave. Says Salman, their appearance scared me so much. They were tall figures with maces of fire in their hands. And they approached me. Their eyes were like lightning. Their faces scary. Smoke was billowing from them. Their voice karra'ad. Their voice was like thunder. Thunder in a 6 foot by 2 or 3 foot grave. Says their voice is karra'ad. Says the moment they entered my grave, they let out a scream. A scream that was so loud that it burst my eardrums. The narration say, if the scream of Munkar and Nakir that is given in the grave was to be given on the earth, all of the inhabitants of earth would perish. That's sayha. Says they screamed and my eardrums burst. And so they came forward. And they began to question me. And they asked me question after question. Every question that I answered correctly, their appearance became less scary. Until I completed all of the questions of Munkar and Nakir. Says when they first came, I couldn't answer. I was gripped by fear. My tongue wasn't working. And so they began brandishing towards me their maces of fire. I couldn't answer. So he says, I called out to Allah, Ya Allah, help me. Says at that moment my tongue untied and I was able to answer. When I answered all of their questions, with every correct answer, their appearance changed. Became more amicable until I had finished. And they said, you have passed your test. Sleep easy. They pushed the side of my grave, and my grave opened up into a garden. And so in this garden I now dwell. Says Salman, that was my experience of death. Salman lays back on his plinth. He recites Shahadatain and his soul leaves his body. Asbaq said, then we proceeded to bury Salman. The questions of Munkir and Nakir, the experience of death, was very difficult. But what are those questions that they will ask us? The very same questions we tell the mayyat at the time of talqeen, when we're there shaking their shoulder, telling them that this, when they come and they ask you, you reply like this. In reality, that is a reminder for us that there will come a time where you too will be lying here and your loved ones will surround you and they will be shaking your shoulder. Your children will be around you and they will be the ones reciting that talqeen. One would hope. One would hope. That experience in recent years has changed my perception on that quite a lot. There are way too many funerals that I have been to where the children have no idea what to do when it comes to burying their loved ones or their parents. Why? Because the parents gave no importance to masjid anyway. They just come in 10 nights of Muharram, okay, that's enough. The children had no education in deen. The focus was all about get a job, get a good career, make sure you go forward. Doesn't matter if you need to compromise on everything about yourself, even if you need to shorten your name to make you more acceptable to the wider public, you do it. You do it, my son. Go for it. Don't let anyone know your name is Muhammad, you're Mo from now on. It's okay. And so when this Mo now turns up to bury his father, he's like, I've got to get back to work. How long is this going to take? Why do I have to touch him? He's dead. I've seen it. We've heard of it. When you don't prepare your own akhirah, you don't prepare your future generations, then what does one do? What does one do at that point? Children who don't even know how to give ghusl or kafan or don't even want to be in there. And so at times, mutadayyin parents, mashallah, come to the masjid. But from a young age, they gave the children, no, it's okay, yeah, freedom, you don't need to come if you don't feel like it. So by the time they got to 16, 17, now these children have absolutely no connection to the Husayniyah or the masjid or anything. And so they live lives like murtad, as munharif. And then they go and they have children and then they have a new generation of murtad people and munharif people. And the cycle continues. Why? Because the importance was never stressed to them at a young age. And so we find ourselves in this unfortunate situation that the parents will attend, but the children have no desire to attend the Husayniyah. By children, I don't mean young children. I mean the children that have grown up with their own children now. Because we set the grounds for it. We said, look, dunya is more important than akhirah. You have an exam tomorrow, you don't need to wake up for fajr, it's okay. It's okay, you want to go to your party or you want to go to the, what do you guys call it, that prom thing, the ball or whatever it is. It's okay. It's what we do, we're here in Canada now, we have to. You got to fit in. And so you sell your every single belief to the point now that the masajid is just in a very difficult place. I was saying the other day in JCC that I went to a center where everybody was on chairs. Nobody was on the ground. And not out of choice. It's not like, oh, I'm a young person, I can't be bothered to sit on the ground. It was because everybody was so old that they couldn't sit on the ground. They physically couldn't sit on the ground. I said, where are all your young people? I was joking. Once I got to know them, I was joking with them. I said, look, this masjid has become a departure lounge. Everyone's sitting just waiting for the next, whenever the flight is. So where are all the children? Oh, we messed up before and we didn't really give it that much importance. And now, our kids don't come to the Husseiniya, don't come to the masjid. They're not interested in the deen. And so now, it's a place for the retirees to come and meet with their friends and have a cup of tea. And who knows, once this flight leaves, whether, we'll turn the center into something, sell it to someone, I don't know. Because nobody's interested. Why? Because we never instilled the importance of the deen within our children. It was all about dunya. And so the dunya took them. One by one, just like the Pied Piper of Hamelin took the children. The dunya made your children, not your children, general statement, dance to its tunes. And so when I realized my own mortality, I decided to return back to God. But those children, nowhere to be seen. And so generation after generation, it becomes more and more watered down until, I talked to one of the shuyukh, he says, I remember I was sitting in an airport somewhere in South America, and there was a guy sitting next to me, and we got talking. He says, oh, are you a Muslim? He says, yeah, I'm a Muslim. Yeah, he says, oh yeah, wow. He goes, I'm a quarter Muslim as well. I said, what? You're a quarter Muslim? How does that work? She said, oh, my grandfather was a Muslim. My grandfather was a Muslim. And so I'm, a quarter Muslim. And that's where we're going. We're heading that way. Certain places have accelerated this process. Certain places are unaware. With the best will in the world, we create hubb ad-dunya within our children. We create attachment to this world. We want them to be good people, but yet we teach them immoral things. We have young children and we're like, listen, hide this toy because that kid's coming, he's going to break it. Don't share it with him. And so straight away, we're instilling immorality within the children. Through our actions. They see the hypocrisy in our lives. They see me sitting on the minbar and then they see my bad akhlaq at home. And so the hypocrisy takes root in their heart as well. That there is a face for the masjid and a face for home. And a face for work and a face for school. And all these places I'm a different person. With different values and different morals. And so when children see this hypocrisy, then how do we have the umeed that they will come and bury us? Because they'll be like, well, I don't know. Why do I have to shake his shoulder and say things to him? He's dead. That's the reality. Munkar and Nakir, when they enter the grave, they will ask questions. The sixth Imam was asked, says, Yabna Rasulillah, what are the questions that Munkar and Nakir will ask? The Imam says there will be 6. And then an additional 3. And then one more. So the person says 10. Imam says no, 6. If those 6 are answered successfully, Then there is an additional 3 that will be asked. And after those 3, 1 extra question will be asked about from everyone. So, Mom, what are those questions? First question will be, Man Rabbuk? Who is your Lord? That is a realm where one can't lie, or they'll try. Say, Man Rabbuk, who is your Lord? Who is it that you worshipped in this world? Who was it that you used to get up for religiously and go and fulfill your duties towards that person? Who is it whose laws you obeyed from morning to night? What will I answer? My boss at work. The laws of the country. Who is my Lord? Who is it that I used to worship? So at that point, I won't be able to. Some will try. Some will try. They'll say, Allah. And the voice will come, Kadhiba abdi. My servant lies. He did not believe me to be his Lord in the dunya. His actions did not show it. And so Munkar and Nakir will begin to beat the person with maces of fire. And with every strike, the narration say that if a single strike of Munkar and Nakir was to fall upon the mountains that surround Mecca, the mountains would become dust. And they strike this person, then the grave fills with fire. Then those scorpions and the spiders and the snakes that are manifesting as a result of our actions in this world, because that is the realm of tajassumul a'mal. Everything you do here right now is creating your barzakh, your heaven, your hell, simultaneous to you being here. It's not that you get there and be there. No, you are creating your heaven and hell. First question, Man Rabbuk? Who was your Lord? Second, who is your prophet? Third, what is your religion? What religion did I follow? It sort of resembled Islam, but I added a few things of my own in there. I knew God wanted this. He said this was wajib, but, it didn't suit my tastes. So I thought, you know what? I don't like this part. This prayer part, this is a bit difficult. I won't do this part. Hijab, no, that's not for me. Music, it doesn't matter, halal, haram, whatever. I'm going to go for it. So what was your religion? And when the person tries to say Islam, again the voice will come, Kadhiba abdi. He's lying. My servant is lying. That was not his religion. He was not following Islam. And again the adhab will begin. What was your book? What book did you follow? Was it the Quran? Or was it some tool of management book, or some self-help book, or some coaching book, or whatever? That was the book that you picked up every day and read for inspiration. I picked up some quote and I would read it every day. Oh yeah, that's so great. Take a picture of it, put it on my Instagram. Let people see it. Oh, I'm so philosophical. But Quran? No Quran. I did it when I was younger because my parents forced me. But now, God forbid anyone asks me to recite that Quran, I haven't got the foggiest how to read it. I'll sit there and be like, Every time it gets to an awkward situation where the regular dua reciter is not there or the regular Quran reciter is not there, and I'm sitting in the crowd, and I'm looking around and there doesn't seem to be any other candidate. And so everyone starts edging towards the door. Now, God forbid I have to stand and try and recite some Quran for this community. It says, what is your book? How will I answer? What was the book that I followed religiously in my life? The book that I read every single day. It says, what is your qibla? Where was the focus of your attention? Was it the Kaaba? Or was it you faced the Kaaba but your mind was always elsewhere? What is your qibla? And then who were your imams? Who are your imams? Did I really take them as guides? For at that moment, I can't lie. Here I claim that they were my imams, but there is the realm of reality. After this person answers these 6 questions successfully, the 3 additional questions. We gave you wealth in this world. What did you use it for? Did you use it only to hoard it and become a miser? Did you use it only and solely for your own self? Or did you use it to help your brother? To help other mu'mineen, to raise them? What did you do with the wealth that we gave you in this world? We gave you youth. We gave you the strength and the vigor of youth. Where did you spend your youth? What did you do with the strength that was there in your young body? Where is it that you used the vigor of your youth? And then he says, we gave you ni'mah, blessings. How did you use the blessings that we had given you? The blessing of clothing, the blessing of a home, the blessing of honor, the blessing of health. All of these things are ni'mah. What did you do with the ni'mah that we gave you? Your children were a ni'mah for you. Your spouse was a ni'mah for you. What did you do? And then after these 3, the additional question that will be asked from everyone. And what of your wilayat of Ali ibn Abi Talib? Allah sallallahu says, what did you... Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Says, what did you use that wilayat of Ali for? We made you enter this world as a Shia of Ali. What did you use it for? The realm of Tinati wal Mithaq, the realm of the covenant. Those that were born Shia in this world. It isn't random that you were born Shia. No, the narration says that in that realm you were asked about the covenant, whether or not you would accept the wilayat of Ali. You accepted there, thus you were born as Shia in this realm. Those that didn't accept there were not born Shia. But does not mean that they could not come into the wilayah. And those that were born Shia can also leave the wilayah. This wilayah is not random. It is the single most greatest blessing that anyone has been ever given in this world. It is that which is priceless. Those born on the wilayah through sin can fall out of the wilayah. And those that were not born in the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt, through taqwa, through piety, can enter into the realm of the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt. Says, we gave you wilayah. What did you use it for? Did you only use that wilayah so that you could hang a Zulfiqar around your neck? Was the wilayah only so that you could tattoo a Zulfiqar down your arm or hang it in the rear view mirror of your car? Or that you could stand up and change your Facebook profile or Instagram page or your TikTok from the music now to Noha? Is this all the wilayah was for you? Or did you actually act upon it? For in that realm, the one thing that will help a person more than anything is that wilayat of Ali Muhammad salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. Allah. There was an alim who said that there was a part of Surah Zumar that I could not understand. Says the ayah 71 I understood, but ayah 72 made no sense. Ayah 71 is what? وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِلَى جَهَنَّمِ ضُمَرًا. And the people will be dragged away towards hell, fighting. They will be dragged towards hell to be thrown in there. Zumura. With force they will be pushed into hell. They don't want to go. They'll be forced. Says that part I understood, but ayah number 73, 72 and 73 says, وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا رَبَّهُمْ إِلَى جَنَّةِ زُمُرًا. Says, and those with taqwa, those that were mu'mineen, will be driven and dragged towards heaven. Says, this part didn't make any sense to me. That it makes sense. Those going to hell don't want to go to hell. And so they have to be forced and driven. But now here the Quran is saying those that are being taken to heaven will be forced to take it away. It says, I couldn't understand until I came across a narration that said on the day of judgment, there will be such a crowd around Abi Abdullah al-Hussein of his Shi'as that they will all surround him, holding on to him, not wanting him to leave them. And so the angels will be dragging these people away from Imam al-Hussein and saying, look, go into heaven. Hussein will be coming soon. He will be joining you, but you need to go. He says this is what that ayah was referring to, that those believers on Yawmul Qiyamah will not want to leave the side of Ali Muhammad. That Hussein, that Ali, that all of their life they loved him. They cried for him. That on the day of judgment when presented with him, they will never want to be separated from him. Says that as much as they want to stay there, the angels will forcefully take them and place them in heaven and say, enjoy heaven. Abi Abdullah will come. Imam al-Hussein is that Imam. That in al-Hussein babun min abwab al-Jannah. Heaven has seven, hell has seven doors, but heaven has eight. The eighth door of heaven is known as Bab al-Hussein. In al-Hussein babun min abwab al-Jannah. Hussein is a door from amongst the doors of Jannah. Those that in this dunya cried for Imam al-Hussein, those that in this dunya were the azadar of Imam al-Hussein, those that attended his majalis, those that recited his dhikr, they will be the ones that will enter Jannah from Bab al-Hussein. Hussein is that Kareem Imam that on the day of judgment his Shi'as and the Hur al-Ain will all surround Abi Abdullah. No one will be wanted to be separated from him. Hussein alayhi salam has this maqam because he gave everything for the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There was nothing left for Abi Abdullah to give. Everything was given in the way of Allah. The most difficult period on the day of Ashura, the Urafah say that there are certain a'mal that a person can do that will allow them to see the day of judgment, a day of Ashura. But there are 3 hours on the day of Ashura that nobody can see, because nobody has the power to see those 3 hours. They can't bear it. What are those 3 hours? They say that those 3 hours are the 3 hours that Imam al-Hussein lie on the plains of Karbala, having fallen from his horse, unable to move, bleeding, weakened. Hussein alayhi salam lies on the earth of Karbala. None dared approach him until Zainab al-Aqila ran to Tilla Zainabiyya. And she called out, Wa Muhammada wa Aliya. That, oh Umar ibn Sa'ad, do you not see that the son of Zahra is lying there? Why is it that you continue to kill him? Umar ibn Sa'ad turned away from Zainab al-Aqila. There were tears in his eyes. He called out, what are you waiting for? Finish Hussein. In Ziyarat Nahiya it says that, and as you lied upon the earth of Karbala motionless, your eyes closed, you felt a weight upon your chest. You opened your eyes, وَالشِّمْرُ جَالَسٌ عَلَى صَدْرِكَ, and shimmer was on your chest. قَابِضٌ عَلَى لَحْيَتِكَ بِيَدِكَ, he was holding on to your beard with his hands, and he lifted your head towards the skies, and he began striking your neck. The sweat of death appeared upon your head. Your soul slowly began to leave your body. But do you know what it says there? It says, as you lied at that point, and the soul or the sweat of death appeared upon your forehead, your eyes were looking from their corner towards the tents of Zainab. Even at that point, Abi Abdullah is thinking of his Zainab. Says, Shimr sat on your chest. He lifted your head by your beard. He struck your head and he severed your head from your body. Your head was raised upon a spear. Zainab ran from Tella back to the tents. Sajjad, they've killed your father. Sajjad, they've killed your father. Zainab alayha salam woke up Sajjad. But you often hear that the first question Zainab asked Sajjad was this, that Sajjad, they're looting and burning the tents. You tell us, Sajjad, should we, the daughters of Ali and Zahra, burn alive in the tents, or should we go outside? And Sajjad said to his aunt, oh aunt, go outside. Sajjad, but they are mahram to us. He said, oh aunt, saving your life is more important, go outside. But there was one question that she asked him before that, after the head of Imam al-Hussein had been severed and they were attempting to loot the tents. At that moment a voice sound like breaking glass was heard upon the plains of Karbala. Zainab turned to Sajjad. She said, Sajjad, what was that sound? He says, oh Auntie Zainab, that was the sound of the breaking of the ribs of my father Abi Abdullah. They have begun to run horses over the body of my father. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, for the sake of these tears, Ya Allah, forgive our sins. Ya Allah, Forgive the sins of our parents. Ya Allah, those of our parents that are alive, give them long lives. Those of our parents that have left this world, give them a place next to Ali Muhammad in Jannah. Oh Allah, those who are ill, give them shifa'ah. Ya Allah, our life in this world, when it ends and death overcomes us, Ya Allah, allow that death to be upon the path of Ali Muhammad. Ya Allah, at every stage allow us to be in the company of Ali Muhammad. Ya Allah, on the day of judgment allow us to enter into Jannah through Bab al-Hussein. Ya Allah, keep safe the azadar of Sayyid al-Shuhada around the world. Ya Allah, give us tawfiq to go on the ziyarat of Imam al-Hussein this year and every year. Ya Allah, keep safe our ulama and our maraji and keep them at the head of our institutions. Ya Allah, hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time and allow us to be amongst his true muntadreen, Matam Hussein.